Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me on this episode of Val Talks Pets. As you know, I like to look outside the box sometimes with care for our pets. Holistic care with nutrition and complementary therapies are all avenues I like to explore and implement. This episode has me particularly excited because I am going to have a chat with a very well-known animal communicator. I have had experience with animal communication, so it's going to be really special to speak with Jean Ranquet. Joan is a very accomplished animal communicator, speaker, educator, and author. Joan lives in Southern California and has quite the resume working with and for different animal causes. Joan has a new book, Emotional Freedom Technique for Animals and Their Humans, Creating a Harmonious Relationship Through Tapping. I'm really looking forward to hearing about this, so with no further ado, let's get to it. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Val Talks Pets, the forum for pet parents and enthusiasts alike. Having been in the pet industry for over 10 years now, I'm going to share with you issues and questions that arise as I work with pet parents on a day-to-day basis. I am not a veterinarian, but I do have certifications in canine, feline, small animal, fish and herptile, and avian health and nutrition from the University of California, Davis Extension. Hello, Joan. Welcome to Val Talks Pets. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's been obviously different weather for you than what we have here, that's for sure. We've been dealing with some serious air quality things here with wildfires and all across Canada. So it's been a bit of a challenge. Even so we have no wildfires right near us, the smoke has drifted from province to province. So it's really made things a bit challenging.
That's usually us here in California. And I
Yeah.
used to live in Seattle and it was the same thing from Montana, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it? It's crazy. It really is. Well,
hmm
you are a very well-known and sought after animal communicator. You're a teacher, you're a speaker, you're an author. This to me sounds incredibly busy.
It is.
Yeah.
I get busy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So your days are taken up with doing all kinds of things. I'm assuming you're doing lectures and you name it.
Yeah, and right now because I have a book coming out, I have I'm doing a lot of podcasts and things like that. But normally my day is taken up by my school. So I teach like advanced animal communication on Tuesdays, and then I teach energy healing for animals on Thursdays. But we have other classes going all the time. So I'm like kind of overseeing what the curriculum, what the content, what the teachers are doing, even if I'm not the one teaching the exact class.
How many teachers do you have?
25.
Whoa, that's a
Yeah.
lot of people. Good for
Yeah.
you. Wow.
Yeah. And some people are in various stages of it. So some people teach the beginners, some people, we sponsor their own class, and then some people are just kind of coming into it.
Interesting. That's interesting. Um, I will be honest with you. I have familiarity with animal communication. Not only have I experienced it with actually a horse that I owned, I had an animal communicator come out to our barn and do our horses twice. But I also took an animal communication course in Lilydale, New York.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
look who's here.
This is
Oh,
Penelope. She
oh,
likes to sit with me.
she's beautiful.
She is.
Oh, look at that. Oh, she's lovely. For those people that I can't see us, she's a beautiful, she's black and she looks like a border collie kind of.
She's got Kelpie, Border Collie, and I think even some Italian Greyhound.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that in her. Oh, she's so sweet. So yeah, and as I was saying, I did take a course it was a weekend in Lilydale, New York. And I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
Lilydale,
I
but
know Lilydale, of
yeah,
course.
so I went there and so I'm definitely familiar with this. I know you have a new book coming out, and I definitely want to talk to you about that as well. But I did want to sort of circle back to talking to you first about animal communication and your journey with this, if we could. Starting with basically how you discovered, I'm going to say your ability, but I'm thinking more like uh, how you were able to discover that you needed to heighten your ability. I have a funny feeling you always knew, but I could be wrong. So maybe you can let me know or give us an idea how that sort of
Yeah.
started for you.
So um, I believe that we're actually all animal communicators, and I believe that we're all empathic, and that we all, through life, we make choices, and we might we might push aside the intuitive thing, but we can't get rid of the empathic thing, right?
Hmm.
So that is um, really, I think that we're all have that playing field, or whatever you want to say about it. Like we all start that way. So I was very connected, and I've had horses most of my life, and so, as a young girl, I felt very connected to horses and nature and the whole thing, and had dogs and cats. But I really didn't. Um, I used an animal communicator also for a
Oh.
horse in the 80s,
Hmm.
and I loved it so much, and I felt so connected to my horse afterwards, like this huge connection, and like, how could this woman know, and is
Right.
that a cooler job than what I'm doing, and how do I do that? And
Mm.
so um I would say that I in many ways, I always thought it was possible, and I felt very connected to animals, and I knew I just needed to be on a different dial, so to speak. And by learning animal communication, by going through formal training, it put it on the right dial pretty quickly. And so I studied for about a year, and then I studied other things, medical intuition with Carolyn Mace, even though I had been doing my own version of medical intuition. And as it turns out, that's kind of what I'm leaning toward, is at what how I teach it is, the way that I leaned toward it pretty early on. I like all the other things I learned, but there were some kind of natural gifts in that way, if you will. And that, I think, definitely as a kid, we all knew whether an animal was sad, but I
Yeah.
also kind of knew if an animal was hurt. And
Mm.
so so putting all together the natural abilities, and then the learning, and the wanting to be that connected and not wanting a middle person,
Mm.
is really what, it's like that was the combination that put it all onto the next stratosphere, if you will.
Do you remember the first uh, animal that you really spent that time with using your skills that you had acquired in your training? Do you remember that sort of first real breakthrough with an animal, getting information that
Yeah,
just sort of blew you away?
it was the teacher's dog. I mean,
Oh.
I couldn't believe how how many little things I got that I thought came in as words, but later discovered that I did see in pictures. But I thought I was different than that, I watched all these people get pictures, but
Mm.
I got words and feelings really
Mhm.
quickly.
Mhm.
And so, in the end, I was also getting pictures, but I
Mhm.
didn't really recognize that at first. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was addicting. I mean, I was high off of that for
Yeah.
I don't even know how long.
Yeah. That's an amazing experience when you realize, "Oh my goodness, what am I
Yeah,
getting here?" Yeah,
yeah,
that's incredible. And,
and love watching other people go through that.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah, oh my, that sort of epiphany kinda thing that comes through.
yeah.
Mhm, yeah. It is quite an experience. when you're sort of, I guess maybe I'll get you to sort of describe a session for me, when you're, say, going in and whether you're doing this uh, remotely or in person. When you're doing a session with an animal, how do you sort of begin? What's your process to get prepared, and how do you do that?
Well, when I first start my day, I wake up and um I meditate first thing in the morning, and I do an energy technique called the scalar wave, which is a technique that I teach and has profound effects um, on healing. But it
Hmm.
also is a calming, and it also is almost kind of diagnostic, if you will. So it's like checking in with myself and doing this healing technique and then meditating. And
Okay.
so that's how I start. And then I go feed the farm, get the horses, dogs, and cats going. Um, and then, depending on the day, like 3 days a week, I jump rope, and 3 days a week I go on, and then I play with my horses.
Hmm.
And then 3 days a week I go off on a big hike out into the middle of nowhere, out into the
Nice.
open space right here, with my dog. So every morning, and people are probably thinking, why is she telling me this? Who cares? But the
Mm.
thing is that what I think of is like the meditation, the exercise, and then playing with my own animals, um, puts my frequency at a
Hmm.
pretty high place. And so that's my first step. Like, no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm here on a podcast with you, or I'm going to be talking to animals, or I'm going to be teaching all day,
Mm.
I like to, you know, I feel best if I've had that. And when I'm traveling, I at least get the meditation and I'll go on a big long walk. Um, and so what so when somebody has an appointment, let's say on the phone
Hmm.
or Zoom, um, I've already gotten quiet once that day. Then the minute I get on the phone with them, I ask them some simple questions like, how old is your animal? They send me a picture. So I look at the picture on the screen, and they've told me the name, the age, how long they've had the animal, who else lives in the household. And then I tell them I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes. And I check back in with myself, that space where I am when I meditated first thing in the morning. And then I connect with the animal, and I get a sense of their essence and their favorite things, who they are, what the relationships are like in the household. If there's a health or behavioral challenge, then I kind of look at that. And then I do a medical intuition scan. And then I tell the person the things that I received.
Hmm.
And then if they have questions, we go from there. And so it's the same if I'm going to someone's house or their barn.
Hmm.
I'm looking at the person in person, and I say, I'm going to get quiet now. And I shut my eyes, I connect in with myself, then I bring the animal in and go from there.
Hmm. Now, I'm going to ask you a strange question because it was something that came up when we had someone coming in talking to our horses. And there was definitely things that came out that I thought that nobody knows that. Nobody knows that information but me and my horse. Nobody knows that. So that was interesting. However, some other people that were there, I wondered if the communicator was actually picking up something from the human at the same time as picking up from the horse. So I'm wondering, as an animal communicator, because you have brought I call them vibrations, your frequencies up to that place, do you think at any time you're picking up something from the human at the same time?
Yes,
Empathically?
I mean,
Okay.
I'm really working with the animal, but what you have to remember is that, like, especially horses have
Mhm,
been, you know, the partner to humanity even more so than dogs and cats, right?
mhm,
They've built civilization with us.
yeah,
So they have, horses that are in our care. I mean, of course, they can go into fight or flight in a minute, but
sure.
they've almost channeled that fight or flight into, I'm going to be super connected to this person, and I'm going to know everything about them,
Mm,
and I'm going to know their quirks, and I'm going to know what works, and I'm going to
mm.
know what time they go home for dinner. And so, you know, I always say that animals' survival depends on an emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And so, you look at the wild, they've got to be able to like run in a minute. They've got to be
Mhm,
able to, you know, get out of there. They've got to be able to sense that there's danger. They've got to be, and then when it's calm, right? Like they're really in that moment. They can be in the moment, they can be present, but they're certainly aware of past, future, pain. They can
mm,
have PTSD.
yeah.
But horses, especially, live in a world that is so interconnected with us because their survival depends on it.
It's a really interesting thing. Yeah, and uh, I was listening to one of your videos, and you were talking about the third eye, and I had a little bit of a almost a aha moment myself because I was thinking, and you can tell me if I'm completely off the mark, but I find that for some reason or other, we always want to press our heads to our horses' foreheads as
Hmm.
well. And when you mentioned that, I thought, oh my goodness, is that this third eye connection between us and them that we're sharing? Is that something that we're drawn to automatically?
I
I don't,
think so.
yeah.
I
Okay.
did it this morning with one of my horses. So,
Yeah.
yeah, after I lunged him, and he's really coming into his own, and we had that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That moment where you feel that we put our heads together and you feel that from them. Yeah. I was just thinking, aha, that's interesting. Because when you mentioned that, you also mentioned something called the precious zone. What is that?
Preciousville.
Precious,
Um,
Preciousville?
yeah, that's for my TEDx talk. And the reason that I talk about that is because when we come into the end of life with animals, we realize how precious every minute of
Mm,
the day is, right?
hmm.
And we, notice all the little things, and we take our time, and we slow down time for ourselves, and we, celebrate the little things. And if we did that throughout their lifetime, we'd have zero regrets.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's what you mean. Yeah.
So it's just putting everything into to being precious.
Mm, yeah. So when you're talking about when our animals leave us, then we go through that whole process of almost backtracking through. Did I do this right? I should have done that.
Yeah.
That wasn't good, and then we guilt ourselves and,
Well, and guilt is such an amazing, a very large part of grief.
mhm. Oh,
And when
huge.
we can, what's that?
It's so huge. It's
Yeah.
everything, I think. That's how you either let go or you don't is based on the amount of grief. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing with the guilt is that when we can move the guilt out of the way
Hmm.
and just be in grief,
Mm,
we can stay connected with the animal and eventually learn to let go of the grief and there's the connection with the animal still.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Um, there's always going to be something that we beat ourselves up for, right?
Yeah,
Always.
absolutely.
Yeah, always. Um, so I was wondering, do you find that sometimes people come to you, and I don't like to say the words last resort, but I think that they may have explored so many different other avenues to deal with something, and this is another, okay, we've got to find an answer, and they come to you for that?
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, at least in the '90s, I mean, it really was the last resort, and people didn't even necessarily believe in it, but they were
Mhm.
so willing to try anything that they ended up calling, getting surprised by the whole experience and being able to make a shift then for their animal.
Mhm. I think it does it lie a lot in sort of behavioral issues that they're trying to deal with?
Yeah, or even, I think that as we watch veterinary medicine turn so corporate,
Oh, yep.
you know, people are pretty disappointed in that system as well.
Mhm.
And so, whether it's behavioral or health challenges, like recently I connected with someone who her cat isn't that mobile, and he'd had an injury on one leg, and then his other leg, he got attacked by a dog, and
Mm,
that leg had to have surgeries, and she was afraid that he was in a lot of pain. And so I went through the whole body with her and explained, that a lot of what's going on for him is not so much pain where the original injury was and then the secondary injury, but more in the compensation pattern.
yeah.
And that really, there's a lot you can do. And I taught her a technique called the bladder sweep and a few other things. But these, now she's taking it into her own hands, right? And she's
Mhm.
starting to see a difference in his gait. She's
Oh,
seeing that he's kind of walking. He's still a little wobbly, but he's not as bad as he was. Well, that's not anything that her vet offered her. And not only that, the vet comes in for 2 seconds, gives the cat a shot, and is out the door. So that sort of, you know, care and acknowledgement for the cat of what he's going through, and then acknowledgement for the person about what she's going through, and kind of assuaging her fears and worry and all of that. Those are all things that just doesn't happen in the veterinary world that often. I'm not saying it doesn't
no.
completely. I also have some amazing friends and colleagues that are remarkable veterinarians,
Yeah.
but it's few and far between. But I think
Mm,
even vets are feeling like this is not okay,
yeah.
or they're too busy in their practice to, they're on a treadmill.
Mhm.
They're going
Yep.
so fast they can't take the time to say, I don't want to just walk in and give that dog a shot.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there's a huge veterinarian shortage in Canada right now, particularly in Ontario, and it's pressing vets to the limit. And so that's why now you're waiting weeks to get in to see your vet. Whereas before it's like, oh, I need to bring, oh yeah, sure. How about tomorrow? No, not anymore. I have a cat at work that she has a polyp in her throat and she's going in for surgery, but she has to go for pre-medical check first. However, in order to get with the vet that she always has, I had to wait almost 3 weeks.
Wow.
Hmm. And I'm not going to say that he fobs us off, far from it, but it just goes to show you that we're so pushed now, and and it's really sad because I think they want to give you more,
Yeah. And
you know.
this is the world we're living in right now. And
Yeah.
so the more tools that the human can feel empowered
Yeah.
and not so desperate for the, you know what I mean? Like then it's a symbiotic relationship between like, oh, these are my outside caregivers, but ultimately, like me with my own health, I'm the one responsible for it. I'm the one responsible for my animals. And if we got more into that headspace, you know, one of I did a little video yesterday about, you know, one of my students who got into an emergency room because her dog was having seizures. And, you know, I'd checked in and I had felt, you know, certain feelings. My advanced animal communication class, which is always on Tuesday, they had checked in with the dog. And so what happened was the gal went to the emergency vet. They wrote up a document, and it would have been $8,000 just for the diagnostic. That was we weren't even getting to treatment, right? And so I called her and I said, "What's going on?" Because I could feel that she was like wigged, and I hadn't heard. And she's kind of the right hand person in the school. And she said, I'm, you know, and I could feel she was just going down anxiety road. And I said, hold on a minute. What did you learn from class today? And she said that the dog counts on me, that the dog feels this when she has an episode, and that, you know, I said, what are some of your skills? And she said, animal communication, medical intuition, acupressure, scalar wave, EFT. Like, I'm like, so do you think you need to do the $8,000? No. What do you think you need? I just need blood work and an x-ray. I'm like, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. And then I say, you got to trust your gut, you know, you know your animal best. You know your
animal best. And I just worked on that dog today, and, you know, we're gonna do it without all this crazy shenanigans.
I can't believe that. Yeah, cost of stuff's gone crazy.
Yeah,
beyond crazy. Do you find that when you're working with animals, and those that we don't know their backgrounds, you know, we don't know where they come from, you know, shelter dogs or wherever they come from, do you and you mentioned PTSD, and I truly believe that there's a lot of dogs that do suffer from PTSD. I do. So when you're looking to try and figure out, you know, things about this dog, or for example, we don't know their backgrounds, and so uh, are you able to get enough from them to find out what's happening from their past?
absolutely. Like,
Okay.
going back to that cat that had the injury. He's been with this woman for about 6 years. And he told me that he loves this because she was afraid he was bored. And he said, I know I'm so grateful to be here that, you know, where he was before, and he loved the people, but they were very big and loud and always fighting. And so, you know, he wasn't bored at all. He was just like, wow, I am just here.
That's amazing.
So, you know, yeah, definitely I can get a background from the animal. And also, you know, we have to remember that even if we think that a hoarding situation is bad, that was their family, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't bad for them. They were with their family.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of dog shit around? Yeah, guess what? There would be in my yard too if I didn't clean it up. Right? So all the things that we put on, like, oh my God, and I've given you the best home and look at you, right? Like we make up this idea that we are better than where they came from because we have a judgment about certain things that they don't have that judgment about. They
Interesting.
just simply loved their situation. So when they end up in a shelter, they've even if the person's a jerk, they lost their person,
Yeah.
even if they're matted and they were with 15 other little dogs that are matted, they loved those dogs.
Mm,
They didn't care they were matted.
wow.
You know what I
That's,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
We love to take dogs off the streets.
yeah.
Most of them love being on the streets.
Our dog is I've done lots of stuff on the podcast, but our dog is he's getting a little bit older now, but he came to us 7 years ago. He's what they used to call a res dog, which means he came
Yeah,
from a
I
First
have one right
Nations.
here. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So he's a First Nations dog from Northern Ontario, and so what they call a community dog. And so he ran with the community dogs. There was about 75 in his group. And you know, when we fostered him first and then adopted him, but he was I, we just thought he was an old soul in this young body. He just had this way of communicating and through his eyes. And but he would all of a sudden, I was trying to figure, I have to train this dog now. What am I going to do? And I was working on, recall, and I was all ready with my, I had a lunge line. I was going to pull it in and say, come and all this stuff. And all I did was say, I had him on the lunge line. He was sniffing around and he didn't even really, I changed his name. I called his name. He came running to me, sat down in front of me, and I went, oh my goodness, like, you already know this. How do you know this? So somewhere along the line, I figured out someone had taught him quite a few things in the past. He just sort of forgot and needed to be reminded. And so all of these things he knew, but it's all from his past. I don't know how he ended up as a community dog. Somebody obviously had him, somebody loved him and taught him things. How he ended up as a community dog, I don't know. But it's funny how that, oh yeah, I forgot that. And he had to reminded himself, oh yeah, don't take stuff off the counter. That's not what you're supposed to do.
yeah,
You know,
no, not the counter thing. No,
don't do that. you know, but yeah, it's very interesting. And I think that's something you probably encounters. People want to know if they don't know, never had this dog as a puppy, they want to know the past.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, it helps and it doesn't. To me, when you're moving a new animal in, you you know, I like to give them some space to grieve.
Mm,
And I
mm,
like to give everybody in the house space to grieve the fact that we were only 2 dogs in me and now we're 3 dogs in me,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
right? So, part of the preparation is, like, are you gonna be okay with the fact that this is expanding, right? Like, we're expanding, and while it's exciting, there may be some hurt feelings, there may be this was a really great little healing because maybe one dog died a year ago and
mm-hmm.
the 3 of us, me and the 2 dogs, healed until we bring in another 3rd dog. So, there's a lot that we just, overlook because we think we're so amazing and that we're just gonna better this animal's life by the virtue of being us.
Yeah.
And the truth is, so sometimes knowing their past is people kind of pander to it,
Mm,
like, oh, he had a really rough start. I
mm-hmm.
always say he doesn't have a bad house now. Let's, I I'm not going to cater to that. I'm going to
Right.
create a brand new citizen. I mean, a good citizen in a brand new situation.
I like that a lot. That's yeah, let's not feed into the past where things were that not so great. Let's be more in the moment and move forward now. Yeah, and not feed into the energy from the past. I get that. That makes a lot of sense to
Yeah.
me.
And often the past wasn't terrible for them. What was
Yeah.
terrible was leaving.
Okay. Interesting. Huh. I mean, I'm thinking some of them are probably happy to go from where they were. if they, depending on the situation, you know?
Well, I mean, people dump dogs like nobody's business, right? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's a perfect example of, the dog's going lying along life, thinking life is great, and the person's like, "Oh, I got an apartment, I can't have a dog."
Yeah. Yeah. We're having a baby. Bye.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or you're 12 now, and I've got young kids that want to play with a puppy.
Yeah.
Like, that's the sort of thing where their life was not bad, it was wonderful.
Mm.
And then there's confusion and grief.
Yeah. 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 And I can see the confusion probably is really quite heightened in them when they're in that situation.
And the grief.
And
And
the
it
grief.
it really comes out like, I mean, you know this from having a horse. They audition for you, and then one day they say, "What you see is what you get."
Yes. I'm going to entertain myself, and it's probably at your expense.
Exactly.
That's what I found.
For
I
about
think I'm a
6
little
months,
bored today.
yeah, I'll
Uh,
be awesome for 6 months, and then all
yeah.
of a sudden, the real me is coming out.
Yep, that's so true. Have you ever had, like, I mean, I'm just thinking, what's the strangest thing that's ever come out from a communication that you can think of?
This one's in my first book, Communication with All Life, and I had this woman who had, she had a lot of cats,
Mm,
and her cats had gone 2 of the 4 cats or something had gone missing,
mm,
and so she had suspected that there was somebody stealing the cats and that there
mm,
was, something kind of possibly terrible going on. So she wanted me to talk to one of the cats, um, that lived there to see what if that cat knew anything about what had happened.
oh,
And that cat didn't really have much to say that seemed any different than what the other 2 cats had told me about where they were. But
okay.
that cat told me that she lived upstairs, that she liked to be upstairs with the woman's elderly mother
Oh,
in the morning because that's when the visitors came. I was like, okay, I'm just repeating exactly these words. Well, it turns out the mother had dementia and
okay.
believed that aliens came, and she would come downstairs and say, I've had visitors all night and they're here. They stay until mid-morning. And she wouldn't come out of her room until like around 11 in the morning. And she always looked disheveled. And I mean, it was, I struggled. Do I even say this? This is so crazy. It has nothing to do with what. And it turns out that whether there were alien visitors or not, the mother believed it and was talking to someone all morning long. So the woman actually put a camera in her mother's room,
Oh,
never saw who she was talking to, but saw the whole interaction go down.
wow.
And I thought, all right, this is off my, this is way past what I know to do. So I happen to know someone that liked to communicate with aliens, and so off they went.
There we go.
Yeah, I sent her to her, but yeah,
Wow. And this cat was enjoying this interaction?
loved it.
Loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe the cat was seeing the aliens too.
I
Who
guess so.
knows?
Apparently, it didn't get picked up on the camera, and it wasn't available for this woman to see. So I don't.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. And then you never figured out what happened to the other cats? Like where they were going?
No,
And the aliens were
no,
taking them.
no. I don't think it was the aliens. I think that was a special family affair. That, yeah, but a lot of cats had gone missing in the neighborhood, so they were,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's when people aren't great.
Yeah. Yeah. It could be that. Yeah. Absolutely. That's not good. You do like a lot of things, between your writing and your speaking and your engagements and your teaching and everything. Do you have a preference for any of them, or do you just sort of like love the entire spectrum?
I would say I love the entire spectrum. I love, especially since COVID, I'm so
Hmm.
happy to see people again, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but I love like that during the week, I'm here on Zoom and I'm with my students who are from all over the world. And
Hmm.
then a couple times a year, we get together for 9 days, and I
Oh,
love that.
nice.
And I love hiding here and writing, and yeah, I love all of it.
All of it. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah,
You really carved out a really nice thing for yourself, doing everything that you love, especially, working with animals,
yeah.
um, it's a pretty good gift. That's for sure. So let's talk about your new book that you have coming out, which is Emotional Freedom Techniques for Animals and Humans, creating a harmonious relationship through tapping. I actually do have some familiarity with tapping. I'll get you to describe it and explain it, but I do have familiarity with that because um, someone I know, she has it's a holistic, lack of a better term, teeth cleaning business, and the pets are not put under for this. So they descale the teeth and everything while they're awake. And so they have to employ an awful lot of calming techniques, and
Hmm.
tapping is one of them.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Eh? So I'll get you to describe what it is and how this is working for you in your in the book that you've got coming out.
So, emotional freedom technique or EFT tapping is tapping on specific acupressure points
Hmm.
that induce calming. And each of these points are very specific.
Hmm.
And when we look at acupressure points or acupuncture points, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
are connected to meridians.
Yeah.
Those meridians are connected to organ systems, individual organs. And each of those organ systems are believed to be connected to an emotion. And this is all part of traditional Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
So the tapping points that were chosen, like I said, are very calming. And um, so we have the ability by telling a not so good story while tapping on feel good points to start to release and reduce the story's triggers in our nervous system. So we're not going to forget the story, but it's not going to hold as much value in our system. And so and then by the end of the tapping session, you're basically moving into more of the state of the outcome you want. So, if a horse was afraid of going through the water jump, it'd be like, I'm
Mm.
so afraid, I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid. I don't want to
Hmm.
go into the water. And by the end, it's, maybe I trust my person. We love working together. I'll give it a try, So you're moving from that big scary thing, that PTSD, that sad
Okay.
thing,
Yeah.
into either trusting the person, trusting themselves, letting go of the past, being available to try, things like that.
Interesting. So is there a protocol for how long you do it? When you're or and sort of is there a like a mapping specific to how you start?
Yeah, there's a
Okay.
mapping, and all of that's in my book. And I mean,
Okay.
literally, anybody could take that book and be tapping by the time they read the chapter. I mean, you
Okay.
might be following along, and then I'm going to have videos available in a special page for anybody that's bought the book. Um,
Okay.
and there's videos on my YouTube. But yeah, so there is a protocol. And the thing I say is that if you move to a transition, like either the next feeling, like let's take the water jump. I'm so scared. I'm so scared. And then if you feel like the fear is starting to release, but it's not quite gone, maybe you go to, I have anxiety about this. I don't know. I don't trust it. So you, to me, you keep moving, you keep tapping on the feelings until you feel like um, this is starting to dissipate. You'll see the horse or dog or cats maybe start blinking, or their eye relaxes, or they take a big sigh, or they lick and chew, or they pass gas, or they um, just seem to like, oh, okay, surrender to the experience, things like that.
Hmm. So you actually I was thinking that, do you see a release, as you're working through? Yeah.
This is funny because yes, and I also, when I train people, I have them feel it in their own beingness. Like they might feel it in their body. They might just notice that the
Hmm.
emotion has left for the animal. But the thing with, I do that because animals, like people, can be stoic, can be guarded, can be
Hmm.
like, I'm not doing that, can be resistant, can have
Hmm.
blocks around letting something go. Like, accepting that if you're a dog and you have to accept that new dog, it may mean that like
Hmm.
I was loyal to the dog that died, right? Like
Yeah.
just like people, there's complexities. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's far more simple with the animals, but they can have blocks, resistance, all those things that we have. And like I'll tell you, I love watching my students tap on my horses, because one of my horses is, she just turned 36, and
Oh
so
my
she's
gosh.
old. Yeah, she's old.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, she is old.
she's yeah. And but she's the same, right? Even though she's really decrepit and she's got a like 5 feet canter, and she walks like just the worst gait you've ever seen, but you just
She's an
remember
old
her in her
lady.
youth. But she will literally, I mean, literally let someone tap on her, give them a dirty look the whole time, purse her lips together like, you're not getting through to me. And then she'll look away and then do a big yawn. Like, you can't see that. I'm not admitting that you helped me. So I purposely love for people to tap on her so that they can see that they've got to find that transition within themselves to move on. That's part of understanding the energy.
Yeah.
That's why I call it an energetic body work, because it
Yeah.
also works like body work, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what it is. Yeah. Um, so do you sort of just sort of stay with it until you feel a release? Or do you sort of just kind of move through and then wait for something later? Or just stay with it until you get sort of the results you're hoping to
You,
get?
you, I stay with it until I get something,
Hmm.
or that I feel like I've done enough.
Okay.
So you have to rely on your intuition
Yeah.
in this,
Yeah.
and um that's part of it right there.
Yeah.
Is you, on the one hand, it's this physical technique that
Hmm.
is pretty straightforward once you get the hang of it.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, you have to really trust your instinct.
Sure.
And it takes um it yeah, it just really takes some practice. I mean, I think practice is the best way to start to trust your instinct. But so at first, you're going to see the physical, like I said, the yawning, the breath change, the
Hmm.
eye softening, all those
Hmm.
things that make us know that an animal's releasing something. The
Hmm.
other thing is, like any energy work, sometimes you're unwinding for a few days, so it may
Yeah.
not look like anything's really happened, and that's where you have to trust. Like, no, I did a lot, and
Hmm.
then let it go. And then, the next day, maybe the person calls and says, wow, they slept all night. And now they didn't pee in the house for the first time. They actually pottied outside. So, it's
Oh,
like,
no. Yeah.
yeah, so it may not look like anything. And so you really have to build a trust with it when you're working with when you set out to do. I mean, you don't have to build a trust. You can just give it a shot with your own animal. Something's going to shift. But if it is something you want to do, and it's fun to work with people and animals. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes it's heartbreaking because it's a tough situation, but um, if it is something you want to do, then I always say that between animal communication and energy healing
Yeah.
and medical intuition, you have to look, the three things you need are number one, just being able to get quiet so you can get to that neutral space. Number two, you need to have a structured place to practice where you get verification, because that builds number three, the other requirement, which is trust.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Very
you really need to be
symbiotic.
able to trust. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is something that you can deal with. What I obviously for um anxiety, as you're saying, some sort of behavioral issues. Um Now, how I guess because it's all about release, but when we're dealing with depression in animals or OCD, for example, do you find that that works really well with that as well?
hmm
Mm,
hmm
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Depression, especially, and that's where, if you can, if it isn't something current, like the loss of somebody in the household now, that's where the animal communication comes in so
Mm,
handy, right? Because
yeah.
you can find out, like if an animal is, you adopted an animal at the shelter and they're just not coming out of their shell,
Mm-hmm.
you can use the animal communication to kind of bring up the story and release it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then move them into, what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense. I do notice that I do know people definitely talk about behavior that they're, and especially dogs will do that is obsessive, and it's become very habitual at this point. But it is really a form of OCD that they've created for themselves to, I guess, to soothe themselves. When they're
Yeah, I
doing
mean, I
that.
think that it's a weird way, it's not what we'd pick to do to self-soothe. We might pick, chocolate or wine or, what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Or caffeine, or although that gets you going and self-soothes, or, we have all sorts of ways that wouldn't look so great to self-soothe. So that's all they're doing
Hmm.
with the OCD behavior. So you have to find, and that's where I always say that all of this, there's animal communication, there's energy healing, there's training, and
Hmm.
then there's management. And so
Hmm.
sometimes you've been in management because you're like, I don't want my dog shredding the house, so I have to keep him in this part of the house, right?
Yeah.
But when you can use animal communication, energy healing, and training together, you can get out of management.
That makes, yeah, absolutely. I can see that makes total sense. Yeah. Because a lot of people definitely are just in that management place because, you know, um, we have to put them in his crate because if we don't, he'll destroy everything. I hate that. I'm not a big giant fan of putting dogs in crates, but if you have to, you have to until you can find
Well,
out
I
why
will
they're
say
doing it.
this. I do it here and there just because that is their way also of self-soothing, because in the wild, they aren't this interactive
Mm-hmm.
at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
think of the crate as like their little coyote den.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anything that people like in
And then
terms of,
wait, I want to just say one thing.
yeah,
I
sure.
I have a coyote den here,
Oh, do
and
you?
yes, and I didn't even know I did. But they will take someone else's built-in thing, like obviously the ground squirrels had created this, right? And so then
Mm-hmm.
made it even more bigger. And they don't live here now because my dogs caught on, and it was baby season, right? As this, as when I found it, I was like, holy crap, if I could keep everybody safe, we could coexist. How fun.
Yeah.
But I don't think they felt safe with my dogs
No.
and their
Yeah.
pups. But anyway, it has so many chambers to it
Oh,
that it is like little crates, right?
wow.
It's
So they build that for
so
each other, like for each one to have a little place to go to?
well, it's just built into the hill, and as your family grows, and they're very family oriented, you're just going to make more space.
Oh, interesting. Hmm. I've never seen a coyote den. We have coyotes around here, but I've never seen one ever.
Yeah, I hadn't either
That's really
until I lived
interesting.
with this. Yeah. So if you think of that, and as long as
Okay.
it's not the only thing, it's you're not your only go-to. Like if I see my animals kind of amped up, I'm like, you know what? Let's kennel up. I'm afraid they're gonna like go running to the crates, but I said it
Not
softly
that
enough.
one. Sound
Yeah.
asleep.
And the other one right here is like not
Oh,
going anywhere. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's yeah. So I don't leave them in for long periods. I use it like, let's all have some downtime.
okay. Um, is there certain things that behaviors that the animals may do that someone may need to look out for if they're thinking that their pets may feel distressed or something's happening that they may need some support? Is there certain behaviors that they do?
Yeah, I mean, I think lethargy,
Mm,
licking, pacing,
mm,
um, being short, like being moody with the other
mm,
animals or people.
mm-hmm,
Um, just kind of ain't doing right, just
mm-hmm.
not participating, or just you can just see they're off.
Yeah, yeah. Then something's up, and
Yeah,
it's trying to pinpoint what that is. But it could be a health issue too, right? They could just not be
exactly.
feeling
And I
well.
mean, when I go back to that animal communication, energy healing, training and management, we should also put in holistic vet care.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard to find holistic veterinarians. There's not as many around as we would like, um, because um, they're hard to get into. For one thing, you have to wait a long time to get into a holistic veterinarian. But I do webinars with uh, an education director from a company called Omega Alpha, and she often has a holistic veterinarian on from Florida, and she's really interesting. Boy, does she ever lay things on the line! She cuts to the chase like that. There's no mincing words with this woman, but she's great to hear a different perspective from traditional veterinary medicine to listening to someone that does holistic veterinary medicine. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they're very interesting. I like those people, but again, hard
yeah,
to get into.
yeah. And I think more and more, like just coming in and giving the animal a pill or the shot and being in there for 3 minutes in the room. I think the people that are vets that are thinking there's got to be another way, I think that's why we're seeing so many vets like cross over into this, like, oh, maybe I'll try acupuncture, or
Mm,
maybe I'll try chiropractic, because it can't be satisfying to give someone a pill and knowing you're not really curing that thing,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
that it's possible there's something else out there.
Yeah. And one of the things that I always say is, and I've said this many times in episodes, is first of all, I want to make sure that this veterinarian is going to be a team with me. We're a team for my pet's
Right.
health. And if I say, I'm going to use these supplements or I'm going to use this today, and if I get eye rolling, we're done.
We're done.
We're done. You're not the
We're
guy
done.
for me or whoever. Yeah, we're done. And I
Yeah,
said, this is what you should look for, someone who can be a team member with you and
yeah,
explore things with you for your pet's health.
because in the end, you're the one that knows your animal better than anybody.
That's right. So, I mean, looking into things like different therapies, and even if it's something like this, like trying some of the tapping therapy, why not? If it's going to work, if it's going to help.
Yeah. And again, if it's something really etched into their behavior, like really a deep, deep pattern because of some horrible thing that happened, then it's also great to bring in that holistic vet, or great to bring in, because maybe the vet is going to find a way to calm the adrenals down, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe the trainer is going to create the new outcome. So
Mm,
to me, it's having a team.
yeah, I think it is a team. Is there anything that anything you think the listeners should know about communicating with their animals, like any insights that a person could learn to recognize about their pets? Like, how can they sort of even try a little bit of seeing if they can connect with them, you know?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is just learning how to get quiet and being
Mm,
able to just listen to your breathing and notice what's going on in your body physically, and seeing if you can let that go.
mm-hmm,
Notice if your mind is really busy, and seeing if you can let that go.
mm-hmm,
Notice if your emotions have really got a hold or a hook in you, and trying to let that go. And then just being with that breath
mm-hmm,
for a while,
mm-hmm.
and then seeing if something else floats in.
And I would probably say, and trust that, because I think a
And
lot of
trust.
times we get something and then we just go, I don't know where that came. I must be crazy. Mm,
I made that
no, you're
up.
not.
That's right. Yeah,
You're not
yeah.
crazy. You got something.
You got something. That's right.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you must be excited about this book that's coming out for you.
I am so excited about this book, and I'm doing a shelter rescue project, and this is something that I wanted to do since my second book came out in 2015, and that is using tapping and using a lot of these modalities on the unadoptable animals. So this summer, our pilot project begins, where me, at least me, and maybe one other teacher are going to the Little Traverse Humane Society in northern Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working with the vet, the head trainer, excuse me, the
Nice.
executive director, and then some people on the board. I'm going to teach them EFT tapping. We're going to make scripts specifically for the unadoptable animals. And then
Oh,
we're going to really work with the timid, the aggressive, all the ones that aren't getting, seen
adopted.
for who they
Yeah.
really, really are.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. It
Yeah, and we're
really
doing that with a
is.
horse. Yeah, we're doing that with a horse rescue also. So I've got two set up by the end of the summer. And I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's huge, because it's
Sure.
going to be a lot of work, and a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can people get your book?
It's in all of the places like Barnes and Noble and Amazon, and yeah, I even have, if you come to my site, it'll lead you to some links of your choice, because
Mhm.
um, there's a lot of outlets. So um, my site is joanranquet.com, JoanRanquet.com, and it's very, very, very um, it will teach you a lot about behavior. Even if you don't have a problem right now,
Mm.
you'll read a lot about, the origins of certain behaviors, and you
Ooh,
might see you might just see yourself in the situations, and it's a fun read. I have good quirky stories,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
have stories that are from my students too, so that you see that I don't want people to think, well, only Joan can do this because she's been doing it so long. No, it's something that I have been teaching for 9 years now.
Hmm. Yeah. And so I like what you said, that they might recognize the situation, that, oh, okay, I know what this is all like. I recognize this, and then have something that they can work through using your book. That's going to be really valuable, really
Yeah.
valuable. Yeah. Can they go to your website to contact you for, say, if someone wanted to reach out for a communication session, or obviously to, even if they wanted to register for one of your courses?
Yes, absolutely. My courses are there, and I have a whole school dedicated to animal communication and energy healing. I also take
Mhm.
people on wildlife trips.
Oh, I
And
saw that. Yeah.
yeah,
I was thinking, no, tell me about this wildlife trips. That sounds amazing. Tell me about that.
well, let's see. In November, I took people to Kenya. About 12 people went to Kenya, and then a couple of us went on from there to Uganda and
Oh,
we're with the gorillas. And then
oh my God.
in May, I just got back from India where we were in 3 different national parks with tigers.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
I've got a Zimbabwe trip for first of the year for 2023 November. Not first of the year. And then next May is possibly I think it's going to be Thailand for more like tigers and Southeast Asian animals. Yeah. And then the next winter will be Kenya again and Rwanda. So
So is this for people to come and just sort of like experience being, in those environments and seeing wildlife like that?
yeah, because yes, I always say if we don't do something now, it's gonna go away.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just gonna go away. And
Yep.
so it I'm getting people there. We have the most amazing experiences. Every
Mhm.
guide I know is always like, I can't believe what we just experienced.
Really?
And they live there doing that.
Yeah.
So it's profound. And I want people to um, be in their space, but be like the fly on the wall
Mm-hmm.
so that we can see who they are and what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we get to watch them, like we spent a day, like we were with these tigers, and they always say that like don't count on seeing tigers. Just don't count on it because it's impossible. We had 21 game drives, and on the 2 days that we didn't see tigers, we saw the only other elusive animal. We saw leopards, but we had 19 game drives where we saw tigers. And so one day we were with these 2 brothers, and they were off in the distance, and then they'd get up and you're ready to move somewhere in your Jeep, and they would take about 10 steps and then they'd plop down. And then about a half hour later, they get up and you think, oh my God, now we've got to track where they're going. They take about 10 steps and then plop back down. And they were just such cats, you know?
Oh yeah,
So,
yeah, they're cats. That's right. Yeah. Just like a cat. Yeah.
yep.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm going to go over here now.
Wow. So, and but
Yeah.
and what else do you see on your trips as well? What else?
So on that trip, it was, tigers were the highlight and they're
Mm-hmm.
very, very, very endangered. And
Yeah.
India is really doing a lot with their national park system to
Oh,
limit the amount of pressure by limit. You have to get your permits to go into the park way in
okay.
advance. Um, Ranthambore National Park has a huge limit on the amount of people even allowed in the park. And
Mm,
it's a huge park, and there's like 10 entrances, so only 5 Jeeps per entrance. I mean,
okay.
it's really amazing. So then um, they've got, yeah, so you see, I saw my first sloth bear. Um,
A
and
sloth bear?
yeah,
What's
when,
that?
well, they've got the longest nails on the planet. They're really cute. I mean, like they've got just that kind of kissable face, but apparently they're almost more dangerous than a tiger.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Let's see. We just we saw Indian wild dogs, which again are very, very difficult to see. We
Okay.
saw a lot of the same things I see in Africa, but I've done a bunch of trips to Africa. I've done Kenya twice, South Africa 4 times. One of those times went to Botswana and Namibia, and so I've seen rhino. Spent a lot of time with elephants, with lions, with amazing.
Wow, that is amazing. Wow, that's incredible that you can do this. And then you have this group of people with you that, are all like-minded and have that
Yeah,
energy. Yeah,
we get
that's,
quiet, and
yeah.
it's getting into that quiet space
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and just being in their zone
Mm-hmm.
that they, like 3 different times on this last trip, tigers just walked right by the Jeep. So close that one of the times I was like standing there and I thought, should I be scared? Because this is really close.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me like, hey, kept going.
Well, I guess it's also giving credit to the park that's keeping the amount of people down too, so that they're
Yeah.
not running scared all the time from humans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is quite something. That's amazing that you get to do this, and these people are really, wow, they're to be able to have that journey with you. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then if someone is interested in doing this wildlife with you, that's also on your website as well.
That's all on the
All on
website.
the
Yeah.
website. That's fantastic. And do you have any uh talks coming up or scheduled that you're going to be out speaking?
I'll be in Boston in September. I've got a lot of stuff. I have a Facebook group called Learn to Communicate with Animals with Joan.
Oh,
And
okay.
I do something every Tuesday at 10. And then in August, we'll do a book club for the people that have bought the book. We'll have this whole book club and we'll go through each chapter and people will really become amazing tappers.
Not the dancing kind.
Exactly. Well, they can if they want.
If they want, yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, I think that we've just had an amazing and a fascinating conversation, and I'm really glad you took this time to talk to me. And
Well, I'm grateful that you invited me. Thank you.
Oh, well, it's been fantastic. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, is to have someone on who is an animal communicator, because you know, I really do believe that there is a level of communication with animals, and we just have to sort of come out of what we feel is the norm and go to a different type of level, but it also a different way to understand that communication. But we've got to let go of what we feel is traditional communication. They're not going to turn around and talk to us like Dr. Doolittle. We have to find something else, and I
Yeah.
think it's there. Yeah, I truly believe
It's
that.
yeah, and it's just it's good for everybody to get quiet every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some really good reasons why people should get quiet.
Exactly.
Don't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, thanks again, Joan. I hope we can talk again, actually, because I'd like to hear about some of your trips that you're going to go on.
I would
And
love to.
yeah, that would be really great. So we'll definitely touch base again. And especially if you have any other books come out. I know you enjoy writing, but I'm I'll get people. I think it would be great if people were able to get onto your website and have a really good look at this book. I think this is a fascinating thing. So, and I'm going to say simple, but it's an approachable thing that people can think, I'd be able to do that. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
So,
it's for everybody. I want people that can't afford a communicator, can't afford,
mhm.
you
Mhm.
know, all these things like this is doable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's really simply and clearly written because I'm just not that sophisticated. I know I've been teaching for long enough that I know how to like
Yeah.
break it apart.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Excellent. All right. Well, for now, we'll say good night and definitely thanks again. And I
Thank
hope we'll
you.
be talking soon.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Thanks, Joan.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye for now.
Oh my gosh, I cannot thank Joan Ranquet enough for taking the time to talk with me today. I know that it can be quite a leap for some to get their head around the idea that animals can communicate with us. It's just a matter of us finding a way to open that channel. Most pet parents know or speculate that their pet is trying to tell them something when you see that intense look as they are connecting to our eyes, looking for that connection. I personally do not believe in any way, shape, or form that animals are incapable of feeling emotion and communicating. The trick is to shed our traditional idea of communication and allow ourselves to be open to the alternatives. And even if communicating with your pet just feels awkward or something you don't feel able to accomplish, there are other people that can be contacted to be the communicator for you. My thanks again to Joan Ranquet, and I hope everyone enjoyed our chat and might just venture into the world of animal communication and therapy because, as I say, knowing is caring. Thank you for listening to Val Talks Pets. Please remember to follow or subscribe to ensure that you never miss an episode. To really help the show and to make it easier for others to find, please rate and review each episode that you find interesting and helpful. And don't forget that you can also email me at val@valtalkspets.com with topics you would like me to address or with any questions you may have. Also, check out my website at valtalkspets.com and let me know what you think and how we can improve upon it. Thanks for caring.